we wished. He said we could close our eyes and invite him into our heart. I did this and felt a deep, deep sense of peace. The assemblies were my favourite part of the school day. We had these little red hymn books, and I longed to learn all the words in the books. 3 of my favourite hymns were Amazing Grace, Oh Jesus I Have Promised, and Just As I Am, Thine Own to Be. Interestingly, in that primary school, I also played the part of John the Baptist in a play, preparing the way for Jesus. It was successful, and we even took the performers out of school into other audiences. And I just remember that play so clearly. When I was about 8 or 9, I remember my gran buying me the Lions Children's Bible, which I absolutely treasured, and I read it from cover to cover. When I was about 11, my Auntie Janet and Uncle John bought a static caravan in Somerset, and they used to take me along there with their own 2 children most weekends and school holidays. The caravan park was down on the bottom of a hill, and I used to jog up to the top of the hill and down the other side. But when I got to the top, there was a small church there, and I couldn't resist popping in each time just to enjoy God's presence and just to pray. Ever since I was a young child, I felt the overwhelming love and presence of the Holy Spirit inside me. I haven't always listened to it, but I have felt it. Through my teenage years, I was always aware of God, but didn't have much time for him. Even though I always felt he was there, I thought church would be something I would come back to when I was older and prepared to dedicate more of my time to it. I did, however, read a couple of books during that time by Norman Vincent Peale. One of them was You Can If You Think You Can, which helped carry me through life's challenges. I particularly held on to I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13. By the time Nicola, my eldest daughter, was about 4, I was in my late 20s, and I really felt like I wanted to reconnect with God. I had a friend who was part of a local church, and I thought I would go along and check it out. I went for a while, but didn't feel comfortable. I felt they were too religious and too judgmental. When Alex, my second child, was 3, I became part of St Mary's, an Anglican church, and felt very much like I was back in the arms of Jesus. My youngest son, Dominic, was only 6 days old when I took him to his first service there. And when he was 4 months old, he played the part of baby Jesus in their nativity. We were part of this church for 4 wonderful years. Sadly, towards the end of our time at this church, my marriage broke down. I did wonder why God would allow this to happen, but it didn't shake my faith. I decided to move up to Cumbria. Being on my own with 3 children, I didn't have much money, and I set myself a target to move up in 3 years. But God opened doors, and it only took me 9 months to save up, sell my house, and buy one up here. I was amazed I was able to do it so quickly. But of course now, I know it wasn't me that did it, it was God. He had plans for me to be up here. My daughter, Nicola, bought me a book by Hunter Davies, and he said, if you move into Cumbria as an outsider, Cockermouth is the friendliest place and most accepting town to move to as an outsider. Although we'd had several holidays in the South Lakes, The furthest north we'd been up until that point was Keswick. So we headed up the last Saturday in January in 2006 to have a look and see what we thought about the place. We went into an estate agent's in Cockermouth and met a man who was on the finance side and didn't normally work out front, but someone was off sick that day, so he was covering for them. We got chatting to him and afterwards thought Hunter Davies was absolutely right. The people in Cockermouth are so friendly. And the meeting with him helped us to see the area in a positive light. We didn't know until about 15 months after moving up that the friendly man who played a big part in our first impressions of Cockermouth was Andy Graham, who goes to King's Church. Also, the very first time we came to Cockermouth, we drove around and ended up in the car park of Eaglesfield Paddle School. We felt like it was in the middle of nowhere, but in some strange way, we felt drawn there. When we found a house up here, we looked around various schools and decided upon St Bridget's. They offered a place for Alex, but the week before we actually moved up, they told us they'd miscalculated and no longer had room for her. This really made me wonder if I was making a big mistake by uprooting the children from family, friends, St Mary's Church and the excellent school that Alex was at, already in Birmingham, to move 200 miles away to a place where we didn't know a soul. I desperately wanted Alex to go to a church school, so quickly looked on the internet to see what options there were. I found 2 schools, one in the village that we eventually moved to, and another one that was out of our catchment area. I phoned up both heads. One in the village, I really didn't like the way she spoke to me and didn't feel comfortable sending my children to her school, because I felt if she spoke to me like that, what would she be like with my children? The other head was the complete opposite. At the end of my conversation with him, I knew his was the school I wanted my children to go to. It just happened to be Eaglesfield Paddle, the school we'd found ourselves drawn to on our first trip out in the middle of nowhere. Due to us being out of the catchment area and it being a highly sought after school, I thought there would be a very slim chance of Alex being offered a place, and at such short notice as well. Fortunately, there was a boy, also called Alex, who was moving back up towards Scotland, and to cut a long story short, both Alex and Dominic ended up at Paddle. I thought I knew which school would be best for my children, but God had other plans, and His were far greater than mine. Psalms 32:8, I will instruct and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my loving eye on you. After we moved up here, we kept coming across a woman called Alison, who is part of King's Church. We saw her on several of the outreach days that King's Church had. I think they called them Wild Days. The first time we met Alison, I thought we should have a closer look at her church, until she said they were baptising people in the river the following day. And I thought, oh my life, that feels far too radical for me. Eventually, we ended up going to have a look at King's Church. And one of the first people we noticed on our initial visit was Andy Graham, the guy we spoke to in the estate agents on our very first trip to Cockermouth. Alan Rossi was one of the elders at King's Church. He wasn't when we first got there, but he became an elder then. And the following year, he baptised me in the river. We were part of King's Church for several years. I moved so much further along my Christian journey during my years at King's Church and found God using me to shine for him time and again in lots of different serving roles. The children settled in straight away and we felt very much at home there. Then when Alan and Sarah decided to plant a church in Whitehaven, God spoke to me in so many ways about joining the church plant. But because I was so happy and settled at King's Church, I tried to ignore him. And I kept thinking, you know, you've moved us 200 miles away from home. Surely you don't want to move us again. But God was persistent. And I realised after a year he wasn't giving up. So I listened to him and joined Grace Church nearly a year before the launch. I remember phoning Alan to say we would be part of the church plant, and he said, "You can't see it, Kim, but I'm punching the air." He said, "We prayed the Thursday before for your family to join us, but didn't want to say anything to you because we wanted it to come from you." I told the elders at King's Church I would stay a year after the launch and then reassess. And here I am, still here after all these years. Now, I could write a book on the challenges I've been through and the way God's grace has brought me through them. But one of those times was when I was badly bullied by a teacher. She was regarded by some to be of high standing and had a lot of clout in the school I was in. But looking back, it was probably because most of the staff were scared to challenge her. The bullying went on for nearly a year, and she tried everything in her power to make my life a misery. I knew it was pointless to complain about this teacher because of her standing. But each day, I would pray for myself, for the children in her care, and for the bully herself. It was a very draining time, but the Holy Spirit was in me, and the words of several powerful Christian songs were continually in my head and got me through. One of them, strangely enough, was a Catholic song called "Do Not Be Afraid." And it goes, "Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I've called you by your name, you are mine. When you walk through the waters, I'll be with you. You will never sink beneath the waves. When the fire is burning all around you, you will never be consumed by the flames. When the fear of loneliness is looming, then remember, I am at your side. When you dwell in the exile of a stranger, remember, you are precious in my eyes. You are mine, O child, I am your father, and I love you with a perfect love." And that really helped to get me through. Another one was an African gospel song called "I Am Walking in the Light of God." And it's a really upbeat song that really used to lift my mood and get me through. I also clung on to the belief that if God was for me, who could stand against me? I endured it because I strongly felt God had put me there for a reason. Towards the end of my time there and on other occasions, I've had several staff ask me, how on earth did you face that bully every day in such a strong and dignified way? And I was able to tell them it wasn't me in my strength, it was my faith in God that got me through. It was God's strength. There are many times that I've made a mess of things that I've done in my own strength, but God works all things for the good of those who know and love him, and he has taken the reins in my life many times. As a Christian, he has the ultimate say in what happens to to me, which is what gets me through life's challenges and gives me strength to overcome whatever is thrown at me. Or in other words, the Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. Psalm 18. I managed.
Oh, do you know what? I can.
That was terrifying, by the way.
Well done. Well done.
Really,
it was really
good. Really good.
And I can really empathise with you about moving to Cockermouth and everything, because we didn't know anything about the area either, and having the same experience about school. And one of the things that we felt about Paddle, I don't know about him, but I did, was I used to do the children's choir at our old church, and one of the songs that they sang was called The Best You Can Be. And one of their values at Paddle is to be the best that you can be. And I really found that it was God was definitely in all the movements that we were doing at that time. And sometimes you think you're in control, but actually it's nothing to do with you. God's got it all sorted, and you just got to go along for the ride. And I think He's quite good at letting you think that, yeah, you're all right, you can do this. But knowing that it's actually Him that's there, being there before us, and sorted all these things. So yeah, it was that's lovely to. I can share. I share that experience with you in just that one thing.
Do you think, Kim? I mean, I'm asking you this question, probably put you on the spot a little bit, but I know, like we said, we sort of share the same experience and things. Do you see God's plan now, looking back, or did you see it as you're in the middle of it? I'm interested to know, that's all.
There were times when I thought I did things myself and then realised it wasn't you, it was God. Yeah. But then there were other times when I just felt Him every step of the way, and I knew He was directing where I was going and what He wanted me to do. It's interesting how different paths kind of cross. And Alan, I mean, I lived in Birmingham, and I found out after a while that Alan used to go down to Birmingham just a few minutes, 10 minutes walk from where I lived to like a summer camp every year. You know, he came from the Lake District down to Birmingham. How crazy is that?
It was it Hockley? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
10 minutes from where I lived.
Yeah, I remember those days really well.
Mm-hmm.
And who'd have thought
our paths probably passed years ago.
Yeah.
I have to say, if anyone was watching Emmerdale this week, did you hear Bob say about his thing about chatting to somebody from Cockermouth? I was like, whoa, lovely people up here in Cockermouth. Don't watch it. But yeah, it was. I was. I've been very encouraged by you.
Thank
you. Wow, I've got to finish off now, apparently. So you can do that. You've done everything else, love. It's all right. It's fine. It's 28 years of this, and I'm used to.
Oh, mate, what can I say?
Actually, it's longer. It's 30 years, but we've been married to it. No, it's 31.
Here's me thinking I'm getting out next year.
If only.
If only. Right, you've got some.
Oh no, I'll leave that. It's fine.
Honestly,
I've been writing notes and he keeps nudging me, but no, it's fine. So no, thank you everybody. But that's been great, Kim. It's been really encouraging to hear some of your stories and your struggles that you've gone through, but knowing and believing that God's with you through it and before you, and is still working with you now. So yeah. So is that it? Do you want us to go?
Is that same time next week, folks? Is that how we do it? Yeah, I'm just.
Prayer meeting Monday night. We had a really nice time praying with Caroline, and didn't we? There was a few of us.
The ladies,
and
the ladies
praying on. Michelle, yeah, and Thursday night again, and I think Paula, you've got like there's a chatty group on a Wednesday, isn't there?
Yeah, Wednesday's still going on. I'm at work now, so I'm not.
I think he's trying to say you don't do anything, but we all know that's not true. Carry on.
Because now I can punch him and nobody will see that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that. Go on.
Yeah,
Paul, is it,
yeah, that's still on.
what time is it, Paula? Just out of interest.
2:30, I think, is it?
2:30. Oh, I'm still working.
The Diet Coke would be preferred.
Yeah, that is Diet Coke in the gin glass.
And then Thursday prayer.
I said Thursday prayer.
Oh, did you?
Thursday prayer. We had a good time on Thursday as well. Praying for lots of you. We were praying for lots of you, and you probably didn't even realise, which is quite nice to know, isn't it?
One last thing. Me and Alan were talking about this. Anyone that plays golf, we were thinking, I'm getting bored of beating him every week. So, sorry, Al. So if anyone plays golf, send me a message and we'll try and sort of get a game together. The ones that can play and the ones that can't.
Oh, I love it. Thanks, Daniel. We're a great double act.
Yeah.
Just going to say that.
We don't want you to end. We just want you guys to carry on. We're quite happy watching.
You two are good together.
Get out of it.
It was nice to see everybody. Thanks, Kim, for being brave. And
Yeah,
it takes
Kim,
a lot out of you.
amazing job. Amazing
Go
job.
and have a nap. Curl up on your sofa with a hot water bottle, have a nap.
Yeah. No, well done. Big well done.